Hello, everybody. I'm
All right.
delighted to welcome Selekumo to join me today for a ValuesJam guest series session. So, hi, Selekumo, how are you?
Hi, Alan. I'm fine. I'm glad to be here. I'm very excited, actually. Yeah.
Good. So before we start, why don't you share with the people that are watching or listening who you are, where you are, the great work that you do?
Okay, so my name is Selekumo Opuofoni, but I'm known as Uncle Sele, and I'm in Nigeria, and I'm currently in Lagos. Okay, and this is what I do. I'm a values and character coach for children. So what I do basically is, mentor children, teach them values, and sometimes I go to schools, have sessions with children, on values and character. Then also in church, I also get to mentor children too. And then when we have camps for teenagers, I'm also there, to mentor teens on values and character. And I go to different places also, like orphanages. I reach out to widows. Every Children's Day, that's May 27th, I always have a program for children. So like this year, we're having a Children's Day conference on the 25th of May. We go to correctional centers for both boys and girls. Every month in a year, we just pick a month, to visit the correctional centers in Lagos. We'll go to talk to them, tell them that it's not yet over for them. So when you leave, these are the kind of things you need to do. You need to imbibe values. And every December, Christmas period, we have something called Christmas Memories, where we go to different orphanages and we create memories for them. We have a party, make them have fun, we play games and things like that. I have an online school called Trees and Pillars. So, what I do there is, every Saturday, most times 3 Saturdays in the month, we teach children different values. We teach them different things, on time management, we teach them on money, we teach them on how to behave at home, we teach them on how to be responsible, basically that. I also tell stories. Yeah, tell stories. I have a podcast, tell stories also. So my life is basically, around, mentoring children, because found out that, we live in a community where a lot of people, are inclined to vices. So we do not want to grow another generation, in that line. So we're saying that we need to push, people to know that, look, there's something called values, and you need to imbibe them, because, it'll help you. You want to be great, you can't be great, loving and, wanting to engage in vices. No, you can't be great, imbibing, values. So that's how, Uncle Sele came up, and we're still here. We've been doing it for a very long time, but thank God.
Well, yeah. Good for you. And I love the Uncle Sele character and line. I think that's really good fun. And you mentioned Trees and Pillars, and you mentioned your podcast. How could people find those? What's the website for Trees and Pillars?
Oh, okay. We're currently working on a learning management system, where where you can just go and you do your courses online like that. Because, for me, it's been a process. It started from children coming to my house. Will come to my house and I'll say, oh, I have cards, where we have different values. So I'll show you, this is what this is. We explain. So then COVID happened. We went online and started doing Zoom. And we do Zoom and Google Classroom. So then it became too much. So we now said, okay, I think the best way to handle it, because it became I had to be the person who, when the parent says, I want my child to, run this course with you. So I have to, put them in the Google Classroom, do this, so it was becoming very cumbersome. So I was advised to get a learning management system. So we're working on that presently. So, but for now, how I run my courses is we do the Google Classroom. On Instagram, I'll first of all advertise and say, okay, so this is the course I'm running for this month. So anyone who's interested will register on Google. I have a Google form, so you register from there. I put the children in different classrooms. Then we'll go on Zoom. I prepare slides, send it to them on they'll watch it on the Google Classroom. Then we'll go on Zoom, we'll teach. So that's what I've been doing for some time.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, let's start the Values Jam then. So what we're going to do is choose a card to start with from the Values Jam card deck. And so what I'd like to do is invite you to tell me how many times you'd like me to cut the deck of cards. How many piles would you like me to make?
Okay, so let's see. Let's do 4.
4 piles of cards. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got those in front of me now, and if you can tell me, I'll start with left is 1, 2, 3, 4. So which pile? 4. Okay, and now if you give me a number between 1 and 15.
1 and 15. Let's see. Let me take 12.
Okay, so the card 12 is, well, okay. This is where you do a drum roll, right? So this is the card.
Okay.
Inclusion. So the value of inclusion is what we're going to talk about today. And this is the first question. So we always start with the same question to begin with. And the question is, what does inclusion mean to you? What does it look, feel, and sound like?
Okay, so when we say inclusion, it means to add. Let me just use the normal word to add, as in like, to include someone in something. So it means that you're saying to add, to join. You understand? So that's what comes to mind, first. So I think I'm right. Or do I need to keep speaking? Do I continue?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So when you say inclusion, so we're saying to join, to add to something, to let me see what other say. Okay, I think that works.
Yeah, it does. And what about the metaphors? Because if you think of the word inclusion, how does it look? If you were to see inclusion, what does that look like? Or if you imagine how you feel about inclusion, or what does inclusion sound like?
Okay, so let me use this example if that's okay. So maybe I'm trying to do a course. Let me give an example. I'm trying to do a course and someone doesn't have money to join me. And I'm saying, okay, so it doesn't really matter, even if you don't have the money to join me, even because that's what I also do. So even if you don't have the money to pay for this course, I say you can join me. Do you understand? Because I think that even if you don't have the knowledge that you get is more important to me than the money. So I say, come join me. So that's inclusion, in terms of what I do. Do you understand? So I'm saying that, when we talk about inclusion, I like that word. I've never thought about it as a value, really. So, so when we're talking about inclusion, I'm saying that, look, you join me in everything that I'm doing. I include you, whether you have the money, or whether you don't have the money, or, when I see you, or when I see a child that is not mine, but I feel that this child, I think I can talk to this child about values. You understand? So I'm not excluding you because I don't know you. I'm including you because you're a child. So I have to transfer values to you. So I'm also saying that regardless of who you are. So also, I'm saying that even children in the correctional centers should not be excluded from learning values. I'm saying that, okay, look, you need to also learn values, because I believe that it is also as a result of its absence that you are probably where you are. So I will include you in my values journey, in my values, projects, and say that, as long as I live, I will include every child, in learning values. When I'm reaching out, to women, I'm saying that, look, especially sometimes single women, single mothers in Nigeria reach out to me and say, look, we need, a father figure. So I also say that we include them in my projects and say, look, I can also stand as a father, to talk to children. So I'm including them. So yeah, I think that works. I hope so.
Yeah, it's made me think about, almost it made me think about the opposite of inclusion, because it's about nobody being excluded.
Excluded, exactly.
And inclusion also, the way that it makes me feel about how it looks is it's arms around, it's kind of come in. So there's this thing about being welcoming. Not, you mentioned the barrier of money sometimes, so it's about not allowing any barriers like that to get in the way. So that you can really help people have a sense of belonging, actually. So people really feeling that they are part of it, not that it's kind of some sort of lip service. Oh yeah, okay, you can attend. Yeah, it's a stronger feeling than that.
Yes, very true, very true.
And also something about the level of the relationship. For me, inclusion is about when the level of the relationship is more equal, rather than somebody feel I'm small and you're big.
I'm small and you're big, yes. Yes, very true.
And there's also something about maybe a focus more on what is in common rather than what we sometimes do, which is focus on what is different.
Very true.
So in your example, it's not about, oh, well, these kids have got money, these kids have not. It's more about you're all children and we're all learning about values. So, it's not about the differences, it's about what brings us together.
Together, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And so let me choose one of the other questions. When have you noticed exclusion?
As a person?
Yeah.
Whoa. A lot of times, a whole lot of times.
Just think of one example. I don't know whether it was maybe the first example or the one that had the most impact on you. Just an example of when exclusion has been there for you.
Okay, so thinking about that. Okay, so I think before I became someone who everybody knows, a whole lot of people know me because of the work I do for kids. I wasn't actually thinking about the children's area before. I was thinking about working in an organization, and I wanted to, because I felt I was very good with people. So I saw this, every time I go for interviews, then they were like, you're not the kind of person we're looking for. And I was just wondering why, even if they felt I was good enough. So I suffered that for probably like 8 years,
Wow.
So I suffered, it was a whole lot of, I did. It was, I was excluded, sometimes I'll have interviews, and sometimes I could even be sent by someone who maybe someone trained me, and they asked him and said, can you please send someone who you think will do this job properly? And the person said, oh, I know this guy trained him, please go. And next thing they see me and they're like, okay, just stay aside. And they do everything. And I was wondering, like, is something wrong with me or something? But I think after a while that was happening, I was still, being very friendly with children. So you see, while the grown-ups rejected me and excluded me, the little children accepted me, so, and from there, because I already had this military background, so I was always used to correcting, mentoring, saying things like, oh, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. So, that was life for me then, so I saw a whole lot of exclusion and rejection there. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. And you've made me curious about this difference between the reception that you received from adults and the reception that you received from children.
Yeah.
So why do you think that you experienced exclusion with adults, but acceptance from children?
Trust me, I also wondered why, because in as much as I felt, let me use the word I felt I was, really cool. I didn't see anything wrong with me, Most times I look at myself and ask, like, is there anything wrong with you, Sele? And like, I don't think so. So, but for I don't know, I really can tell, because it just happened. And it kept on happening for different places that I went to. And it was like, oh, there's this person who is here who wants to work and all those things like that. And they see me, they talk to me, oh, nice. Seems very intelligent and all that. And like, oh, well, I don't think it's the kind of person we need. And really? And like, why? And there were times that I had to say, okay, if this is what you're going to pay me, I'll take lesser. And like, okay, so that I'm not idle, so that, I'm actually working. But it didn't work that way. Sometimes even the fact that I'm saying that I want less pay became the reason why I was excluded. So it was always funny. So, but every time I was with children, I was always able to bring up songs, we'll sing, we'll dance, and then, we'll sit down together and we'll say, okay, children, this is a new week. So this is what I think you should do. Make sure you're always very responsible. Make sure you're this. Make sure when time mommy calls you, make sure you listen to mommy. Make sure you're not lazy at home. So it was always easy. But I think the part of acceptance that I got from adults was every time the children had issues, they called me. So they called me and said, oh, Uncle Sele, your child did this. I said, what? I said, okay, so bring them, let's talk. And funny enough, when I got tired of being rejected, I just stuck with the fact that I was just going to, keep mentoring children before, we registered Trays and Pillars and said, okay, this is where it is. And thank God it is, because we're here.
And you had the strength and I guess the confidence to just go for what you believed in, right?
Oh yes. And it was awesome because, every time, I was with kids, they were always very happy. There was always something that they get home and they, like during the COVID season, I was always on Instagram every day, teaching one value. I was teaching one value every day during the COVID season. So I think that also helps in pushing, the Uncle Sele brand, because I was first known as, people always say, hey, that's Uncle Sele, Uncle Sele, Uncle Sele and all that. So, the Uncle Sele brand grew until we now said, okay, so let's register Trees and Pillars as the arm where we can reach out to children, teach them and all that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and there's also I want to ask you in a minute about the army that you just mentioned, but before that,
okay.
I just, there's something maybe about children not being as judgmental as adults, and maybe that's something to do with how they are willing to be more inclusive and accepting, whereas
exactly.
adults, maybe they have this filter that tells them, oh, this guy, we shouldn't invite him in. And my example that comes to mind of exclusion is when I was at school, actually, as a teenager. So I didn't come from a very wealthy background, but I went to quite a good school, and a lot of the people there were wealthy. And so I remember people saying things like, do you want to come to go to a nightclub with us? And I couldn't afford to do that. So I was like, well, not really. I didn't want to say I can't afford to, but that was the real reason. And then I noticed that because of that, people were not so interested to create friendships. And it's something to do with, you're not like me, and so I'll keep you at a distance. Maybe that's something to do with it. But the army, tell me about the army, because I've never experienced military service, but my perception from the outside is that armies sometimes have a very positive, strong culture, and based, I think, maybe on inclusion. So do you just tell me a bit about your experience?
Oh, okay. For me, the army was for me, my time in the army was a very great experience. Trust me, it was a very, very great experience. Wonderful one, because they instilled discipline. I hard work. And they keep you on your toes. So in the area where I was also very smart, so I was also very loved, and I had great experience in the army. What I was the issue, not really the issue. I think the thing was that I started having this thing inside of me that I was called to do something for the world. I was called to do something. Now I didn't know what that thing was then, but I kept on having this feeling that, look, there's this thing that you're supposed to do, but it's not here. Because even when I wanted to leave the army, some of my friends said, no, we need you. They said, you're someone we need. You're someone who is very intelligent. You're someone who is very hardworking. You make things move, but I kept on having that thing, that feeling that, Stella, you're called for something else. But even the funny thing is, I'd always said that I know somewhere that, I always had this thing that, okay, apart from, I actually went to a military school, I went to a military school, and that's maybe in your own place, you call it high school, but in my own side here, it's a military school. At a very young age, from 12 to 18, then when you finish, you are deployed, into one of the army formations. So I had that background from 11, 12 years, discipline, we're not used to, I was this person who didn't like seeing some kind of things. I wasn't, and I think the things I didn't like seeing were things, were vices. I didn't like them. I didn't know why, but it didn't just seem very cool. So, like you were talking about exclusion, there were times that I had friends who wanted to play, but I wanted to read newspapers, and they were wondering why. They felt I was too young for that. So like, why do you want to read newspapers? I was like, I think I should. It was funny. I'm thinking about it now, but I was like, I think I should. I think I should know things that happen in the country. And they're like, nah, let's go and have fun. Let's go and play. So they called me names. They called me names. So there were times that they would go out and leave me. They go out, leave me. So I wasn't bothered. Do you understand? I wasn't bothered. And the funny thing is, I kept on doing those things, you know. And even while I was in university, because while I was in the army, they allowed me to go to university. So in the university, I also felt that same way. So when I went back to the army, I just had this feeling that, look, there's this difference that I think I can create in my, you know, my sphere of influence. And the good thing about the army is that there's a, you know, I have this community of friends that, you know, some still in the army, and we're still close. We're still doing things together. You understand? So the army for me was a very, very wonderful. I think it's also still helping me right now. It's helping me in terms of being able to stand my grounds on, you know, on my values. You know, where when I say this is what I want, you know, I'm not easily moved because of that discipline. Do you understand? Because, you know, this is how funny it sounds, because in the country we find ourselves in, you can be easily swayed. So, you know, people can easily want to move you to, you know, to do things you're not supposed to do. But you see, and it's really rare to find people who stand and say no. Yes, it can be very difficult because you have a lot of people saying, oh yes, come, hey, but you know, you stand your grounds and say, no, I'm not going to do that. So the army also helped me. The army also helped me with that.
Yeah, and it's slightly off the topic of inclusion, but you've mentioned discipline there and the importance of staying true to what you believe in. And it's not always as easy as it is to say. So you've reminded me of a colleague of mine, and during COVID, what she decided was she wanted to buy her groceries at a local store, not to go to the big supermarkets, right? Because she wanted to give her money to local people. But I remember speaking to her and she said, do you know, I made a commitment that I would want to buy my groceries from the local store. But from time to time, I would find myself in my car on the way to the supermarket. And it's because we don't consciously make these choices.
Yes.
And so to just keep your choices front of mind is something that people don't realize how much of a challenge that is to us sometimes, because the world is very busy. We're making choices and decisions all the time. And so without thinking, you end up going to the supermarket and you've maybe you realize and you're standing there thinking, but I decided to go to the local store. What? How did this happen? So,
oh my God, that's true.
And it's this, I think that's why your work with the children is so important, because if at a young age, they can realize that we are by definition human and flawed and fragile. And if we can give them this strength and this discipline and this conscious practice from an early age, then that's a really fantastic foundation for them for the future.
Yeah, very true.
And what about, so here's a bit, you know, we've talked a bit about your personal experience. This next question is a big philosophical one, so let's open it right up. And the question is, how could more inclusion improve the world?
Whoa. Okay. Okay. So how could more inclusion improve the world? Wow. Okay, so let me come from this angle. You see, where we do not put you know, as human beings, where we start breaking down the walls that we have in our minds concerning people. Now, those walls are things that we built ourselves. So let me give you an example. You know, I earlier said something about finance. So it means that if someone wants to have access to Opuofoni, someone wants to have access to you know, to my teaching, to my time. And, you know, the parent comes to me and says, I really love this course you're having. So let me give an example. I had this course last month called Secrets, you know, things I want to tell my daddy and my mom, you know, and I don't know what came over me. I made it free. Yeah, I said, now this is the reason why I made it free. So that's what I'm talking about, how we block things. Now we you know, where there's this increase in abuse, there's this increase in bullying, you know, children are bullying children are dying, you understand? So you see, we found out that a lot of times it's as a result of children keeping quiet. So you see, children have this pain inside of them and they can speak. Now, the funny thing is, they are children. That kind of pain shouldn't be in them. Do you understand? So we now, like you said, parents are busy, people are running around looking for daily bread and all that. So you see, there's no one to talk to. So we are saying that. So I said, no, let it be for free. Let's have children speak. Let's have children talk to us. So I called a friend of mine and said, please, let's listen to children talk. Let's listen to them talk about, you know, things that happen. Now you'll be shocked. Now, children talking about different things, how friends and school bosses, you know, bully them, you know, and we're saying, okay, thank you for this. We're going to reach out to your mom. You know, children saying, you know, they said a whole lot of things. So we had 2 sessions. We had 2 sessions every day. So we had for the younger kids and we had for the older kids. So you see, so what I'm saying is that now, when we block access to the good things, when we restrict, you know, information, when we restrict love, when we restrict, you know, humanity, let me use that word. So you see someone, you know, and you think the person is not your business. So you see, when we remove all those blockades, the world can be, you know, then you can easily begin to, there's this thing I say, our circles will begin to join, our circles will begin to meet. So you see, when my circle meets your own circle, so you see, first you're just aware that there's this guy called Opuofoni, but you see, when our circles begin to go inside, it's just like when they sit the vein, it's called Venn diagram. Then you know it begins to intersect. We begin to know things about each other. You understand? So I think when we remove, you know, the blockades in our hearts, especially in our hearts, where I think I shouldn't harm Alan, because there's no reason to do that. Do you understand? Now, if there's no reason for me to do it, it means I can speak freely to you. You understand? I can say things. I can make you understand my own position. That's where tolerance comes in. The value called tolerance comes in. So you see, I know that we're all different. I know that, and there's no reason for me to hate you. Do you understand? So then the world can be, you know, then we can begin to see how sweet the world is. Now, I sell things. So, and a parent comes to me and says, Sele, I have this amount. I have this amount, and your cost is this amount. Would you mind taking this from me? Now, the first thing, I know Uncle Sele needs money, but I also know that child needs that information. So I weigh the money of the child. For me, the child making a good decision is my assignment. So I said, okay, problem. There's no problem. Do you understand? I said there's no problem. I said there's no problem. I say, oh, it's fine. We can do this. Do you understand? So for me, that's what I think. If we do this in Nigeria, we do this, you know, in different parts of the world. We do what we are supposed to do. Love. Forget about. I'm not saying that you know, we should just give out our things for free. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying that there should be this understanding that, you know, as people, there's a reason why we are in the world. There's a reason why we are connected. There's a reason why we should be able to relate to one another. there is no reason why I should bully someone because I think I'm stronger or bigger than him. Because the truth is that person, if you understand life, that person can become someone that you will need. So you see, human beings are doors, human beings are steps. So you understand. So I'm thinking that if I reach out to, 20,000 children, there's every possibility that one of those 20,000 might meet my children. And they remember and say, wow, your dad is Uncle Sele. That's a door. Do you understand? So I feel that most of the times what we do is we block doors because of some certain reasons that I can say, or I can imagine. We block certain doors and say, no, this person can come in, this person can come in, this person, most times when I'm doing my reach out and someone comes to me and says, Uncle Sele, how are you going to get money for this? And I'm saying, money will come. Because I believe that, people should love, want to reach out to people who don't have. And the truth is, money comes because people always want to reach out. People want to smile because someone who didn't have has because of them. So they might not be the persons who are going directly, but they know Uncle Sele, they trust Uncle Sele, they know that, okay, when he says he's going to do something, he does it. So, and as long as it's for kids, because he's been doing it for a very long time. So you see, there is no blockage. Trust me, I go places that are very dangerous. Sometimes I just put on my military mind and say, I'm going to this place, nobody's stopping me. And I'm reaching out to children and I'm saying, hey, hello everyone, my name is Uncle Sele. Hey, Uncle Sele, we dance. I'm gonna say, okay, so this is why I'm here. So you see, you're gonna make decisions, yes or no. We create a story and say we have two friends, values and vices. We tell you about values, we tell you about vices, and say, so who do you think is gonna be your friend? And they think and they shout values. And it's okay, so let's talk about values, since we don't want the friend who is vices, because vices will always be around you, to tell you things. But you see, the funny thing is, if there's a blockage, those children will not hear. So you see, for every time we block, for every time we have this thing that shields someone else, the world is crumbling in a certain area, Because I've people ask me this question a whole lot of times. Why do you do what you do? How come? And I'm like, have you looked around? Have you seen the children? Have you seen how much children need to be cared for? How much? Do you understand? So you imagine, so sometimes I imagine if I wasn't doing what I was doing. I don't know if there will be someone else, but I'm just happy that I'm able to do what I'm doing. So someone reached out to me last week and said, please, I want to invite you to the school to speak. And I said, okay, let's go. And most times before people do things like that, they're always thinking of how much are we going to pay Uncle Sele? When I'm like, well, the first thing I always say is, let's go. Let's go. It's not, let's go. So we're there, we're, in the morning, and I'm speaking to children before they start their classes, and the head of school comes to me and says, sir, please, I think you have to come back to this school. I said, please invite me, I'll be willing to come. I'll be willing to come. So you see, it's not, for me, I don't know about every other person, but I think for me, when we begin in our different areas, where we think we need to remove those blockades, where we need to remove them, when we begin to remove them, when we begin to, release access, when we begin to spread, in love, reach out to this person. Now so you can see someone doing something that is bad and you ignore the person, but you see that thing comes back to hurt you. But you see where you're very tactical in passing the message and saying, I should have left you to do what you're doing, but I think I need to plant a seed, in you, saying that you should stop what you're doing so that you don't harm yourself. You don't harm yourself and you harm people, because it's going to have a ripple effect. So you see, think about it. and you go. You've said something, you have reached out to someone. So it means that your words will be in that person's head. And you say, man, Alan said something like that to me. And okay, so I don't think I should, and that's it. Do you understand? So most times the world is the way it is today because, we block our minds in regards to things. We just say no in an area where we just say yes.
What you've been talking about, you've made me think about so many different things. I've made some notes, but you've touched on so much that is fascinating, actually. And just this last point, it strikes me that a lot of people focus too much on what they know rather than be open to perhaps what they don't know. Yeah. And also people are too focused on certainty rather than being willing to embrace uncertainty. So for instance, that example where somebody's doing something wrong and you have a choice to make. Either you can ignore it and let it go, or you can choose to say something.
Yeah.
And then some people will say, oh, well, even if I say something, how will I know whether it has had an impact or not? So why should I bother? But actually, you have no idea what impact it will have. And so exactly like you say, perhaps somebody's doing something wrong and you have a word with them and they maybe, I don't know, they haven't got a good attitude to you, but what you've said still remains. Yes. And so perhaps, not guaranteed, but perhaps the next time they're in a similar situation, maybe they'll deal with it in a slightly different way next time.
Exactly.
Maybe. Exactly. But for you, you don't know whether they will or not. And so it's you having the trust that it will just be better. Not that you'll have any degree of control, but actually you're still willing to do that small thing in case it makes things better.
Exactly.
There's a number of other things. So this thing around how could inclusion make the place a better world? I think that we focus, or certainly in the developed West, if you want to call it that, there's a focus very much on the individual. And I don't know, I'd be interested to hear what the situation is in Nigeria, and maybe it's at different levels as well. But there's a lot of focus on, personal achievement, personal success, personal wealth.
Same here.
Whereas the reality, and again, this is something that you touched on just now, we are not on our own. We're part of communities, we're part of society, we're with other people. And I think a more of a shift to the importance of we rather than I would help this whole inclusion approach. And then you talked about listening and creating a safe space. And that made me think about sometimes in inclusion, people think that it stops with physical presence. So it's like you're here, so you're included. But that's not true.
Because that's not true.
Unless you're heard, you're not included.
At all.
So maybe there's something about the importance of safety, and I love what you did there about giving those children a voice to share their stories, whereas before they were silent. You also talked about the importance of the heart, and it made me think about how perhaps our choices and decisions are too much controlled by the mind and what is rational. So like you were saying, it's like, these guys have asked me to go and talk to their children. How much am I going to ask them to pay me? That's all up here, right? Whereas if your response was more from the heart, which was about, well, they obviously understand that the children need something like what I offer. And so, I'm going to find a way to do that. That is a far more inclusive approach than just keeping it on a rational level. And then the final thing is this focus on the beauty and wonder of difference to drive us, rather than what sometimes drives us, which is, oh, are you like me? Because I feel more comfortable when you're like me. Whereas if we were to say, wouldn't it be great to find somebody different to you? Just think of all the fantastic stuff that can come from that. Then that just takes us to a whole different place.
Level, very true.
Very true. What I guess I'm trying to say is that with your answer to how could inclusion improve the world, you just made me think about loads of stuff there. All right, so we've just kind of enjoyed this exploration together, and the way that a Values Jam comes to a conclusion is with the final question. So I'm going to ask you this now, and it is this: what are you encouraged to do differently about inclusion as a result of our conversation?
Okay. So let me start with a story. I was at home one day, and I looked through my window. So I saw this very young guy who was browsing on his phone, and I called him. I said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And he said, "Fine." I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, he's just browsing on Instagram and TikTok and all that. I said, "How old are you?" He said 16. We started a values session. And I told him that, Instagram is good, TikTok is good. But you see, I think there are cool things you can begin to, to do now. So I know that probably you're supposed to be in school now, but maybe, daddy is trying to sort out things, mom is trying to sort out things. But you see, there's one thing that you have that is an advantage right now. You're young, and another one is that you have a phone and you have the access to the internet. So why don't you start learning things on how to better yourself on the internet? So I took out my phone, we searched, I browsed for things you can learn, the graphic designs and all that. So I said, you can learn this, you can learn so many other things, you can begin to learn all these things, because you're starting from a position where things are not being handed over to you. Because I know, it's a different thing when, you're rich and, if you wanted to do something for yourself, your parents can give you money and say, go start up something. But now you don't have that access. So what you have is the phone, and you have access to the internet, you have data. So it means that you can start from there. Now, I also said something to him. I said, remove your eyes from from things that you really want. You want fast cars, you want new clothes, you want the PS5. I know you want all those things. Remove your mind from those things now, because you are not starting from that level. So what you're starting from is you're starting to build a foundation for yourself. You're starting now. It's good for you because you're still young. Now you see, those kind of decisions are things I said I'll start doing. Do you understand? Where I begin to include people around me, even I know you or I don't know you, where I will begin to consciously, transfer values to people that I honestly don't know. People that I think that, where I see that just one word can change their lives, where and also I think I was talking to Charles yesterday about the program I want to have. That's the Children's Day conference, and we spoke extensively about it. Now, the reason why we're bringing, before, when I want to do Children's Day, what I just do is probably just have few children. But this time around, I said, let's go big. Let's reach out to more. let's include more. Do you understand? Let's include more. In fact, someone on my team was saying that can we quickly reach out to the boys and girls in the correctional centers, or go to other cities and all that. Now, we want to include more, because the truth is, while we waste time, the vices we see, the agents of the vices, let me use that word, in the sense that because vices, we have people who tend to do a whole lot of things. What they do is that they move quickly. So we who are passing values, we're not moving as fast as they are moving. Do you understand? And most times we use the concept of probably we don't know if they'll get it, we don't know if there will be any effect, but no, we're saying no to those things. We are moving. Do you understand? We are moving. We are moving. We're getting more children. In fact, we're getting children, we're getting parents, we're getting preteens, we're getting teenagers. We are saying no to vices. We are saying yes to values. We are moving to get more. We're moving to get more. In fact, the whole idea is, to strengthen, the idea and the importance of values, to mean a thing to someone, to say, look, this is a thing that you need to understand exists in the world. Because, if there is no inclusion, if there's no fast or accelerated inclusion, it will be a problem, because people will keep doing the things you don't want to see. But because you're not moving, because you're not including people you should include, because of the fear of some certain things, you push yourself backwards and you want to relax. But we're saying, no, let's reach out.
Okay.
Let's include more people.
In a nutshell, then, what you're saying is that what you're going to do differently as a result of our conversation is to go bigger and faster.
Bigger and faster. Thank you very much. That is it.
And mine is to be more spontaneous. So in a way, this is an example, because we've just met on a group call, right? Yeah. And I just felt, oh, this would be interesting to do. And so I asked you, you said, yes, we've done this. It's been great fun. The alternative would have been, oh, Sele, that's a possibility. Let me see if he is, if he qualifies. Let me see if we have some sort of decision-making process. And exactly like you say, that would mean we go a lot slower. Maybe we make a different decision, and that means we don't see the benefit of what we've just experienced together. So for me, I'm just going to be inclusive on a more spontaneous basis than I have been before. So Sele, that's a values jam. So I hope that you've enjoyed it. I certainly.
Oh yes, I have, and I'm happy I did not ask what it was. I'm happy I didn't ask. Yes, I'm happy I didn't. Yes, I am. I like the idea of having to think through, being spontaneous and not being overly prepared and all that. So I think I like it. I like it, and I like the idea of the values jam. Yeah, I like it.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
I'm thinking about how we can bring it down over here and do something. I'm just thinking,
well, I'd love to explore that with you sometime, and I'm just gonna stop the recording now.
Okay then.
Cheers.
Thank you.